for
Good
joining.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Really nice to see each one of you on the Sunday, that too a day before our festive season on Holi. Before I start, I wish you a very happy Holi to each one of you and have a great, lovely colors with your family members. I know it's a COVID time, but just do take care for yourself, but do celebrate. That's the important thing. Okay, so let's start with the session three. So just to I mean, you already know me. I'll not go very much deep dive into it, and you can actually see my credentials on the Google itself. There are a lot of courses which are available on the data analytics, and luckily I must compliment that you all are attending the ISTD session. So very well by each one of you, where you can apply the learnings whatever we are doing. And yes, it will be really nice if we get connected into the social media platform. I'm there on major all the platforms, so that shall be great. There are various certification programs which are currently prevailing, by us. So, specifically to become an executive or a manager or a leader, or if you want to pursue your total quality program. So, you can always get in touch with the ISTD with us and do get, certified on best of the programs. Okay, so the certain tips and hygiene. Yes, we'll be using the chat box activity. We will be doing some polling. We'll be doing some, blog activity and so on. So in the session one, we did talk about the overview of the HR, understood the concept of the HR people with the workforce. We understood the benefit of the HR analytics and the history, how it originated, the inception to it. And then we talked about the importance and challenge. In our session two, we highlighted onto the various tools that we have, various career options which are available into the data analytics platform, and what exactly the analytics domain is currently going ahead with, My today's session would be focusing very strongly into the training and development metrics because you know, so the session one and session two was more to give you the preview of what is there. So now let's go and understand on the functionality wise so that you can apply the learnings in the respective departments. So the training and development, I've taken the first one. So in this today, I'll going to talk about the function of L&D, focusing onto the learning management system versus the learning LRS, so that is, I'll give you insight to it after some time. So LMS versus LRS. We'll talk about the top matrices which is being used into the training. We will understand the training improvisation, how we can use data and how we can work on it. And what are the various innovative ways to measure the training effectiveness. Okay. Okay, so what I have done is I have sent you on your chat box. This is a blog, and still, if you find it difficult to remember, so what you can do is I'll just stop sharing the screen, and I'll share you my this screen. Okay, so that you all can read this one. So what you have to do is nothing but just go to the prismphilosophy.wordpress.com. You can also go to the Prism Philosophy site, and in the site you can go to the blog section, or else I have already given to the chat box. Just keep the click link right
Ma'am,
now.
not in the chat box. Please share again.
I will reshare this again. Here it is. Is it now available, visible? And you've got it in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am. Now got. Thank you.
Okay, so this is where you will find the various definitions which we are going to use it, focusing on to the, the aspect onto the time front, quality front, productivity front. These are some formulas you should be knowing it. So I've given it to each one of you. These HR matrices are very, very important. And most of the time I have observed that, uh, the HR professions sometimes struggle how to do the calculation. So this is one handy tool for each one of you, which has been given, you know. So this is the one I wanted to share. Okay, so I'm back with the screen with the PPT. All right. So I would request that once we meet in the next class, kindly just go through this matrix and the blog. It's important, and then we can take it up, in the next class, so that you're already have done the pre-read prerequisites for the next class. Okay, so let's start. The last class we did talk about the various tool, and I'm sure at least you would have got the hang of the tools that we have been using, right? So there are the tools which are there. Let's try and understand hitting into the steps of HR analytics, which is, the aspect towards the hindsight to the insight to the foresight. I'll give you the example of e-learning in L&D, because we have been using very strongly into it. So we all are aware of the fact that the online environment is pretty active nowadays, and thanks to COVID. After that, in this COVID time, and I would say a digital age, we can actually now keep track of a lot of things which is going on. So analytics basically gets collected everywhere, and it gives a very valuable insight into the user's behavior, and the efficiency of various processes also can be known. Now, when I highlight the e-learning as a part of our learning and I would say learning and development program, so the analytics will play a very important role to improvise the effectiveness of the online courses up to a greater extent. So, to give you an example, Udemy is there, Coursera is there. They're having a lot of online courses. So they also are actually went into the analytics more to and figure it out what is the real required. So the learning analytics actually helps to gain an unparalleled e-learning experience, whether it is about um, corporates, educational institution, or if you're talking about training our own employees. So to create a productive environment in which employees would thrive, both traditional and digital classroom have to rely on the actionable data. And this data comes from every measurable factor, which is including the learner's feedback, employees and the trainees score, specifically on the test, on the exam, and the amount of time that they need for the completing a course. So, in addition to this, the factors such as personal preferences, skill level, individual achievements allows the educators to take a closer look at how the students or the employees are performing. So let me share when I was serving ICICI Bank, there we were allowed to share which program I want to do. And I can nominate myself. That was the first option. The second was the e-learning I want to, learn. So there used to be one get assigned from the corporate office, which used to be the mandatory. And second used to be the optional basis just to enhance my knowledge. And what I observe, let me give you another perspective to it. What used to happen is, uh, I have seen in the other sectors, the other employees, what they do is they enroll for the program and they just do click, 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 next, 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 without reading it, just to complete their assigned mandate, because they don't have time and they have to show that they have already read it. So the complexity used to become very, very high. So then we actually got a lot of measuring element to it, because analytics actually helped us that if the person is spending a time on that or not. And then after completing the entire course, the person was allowed to take an exam. So this is how the things used to go. And then what used to be the passing percentage that we used to put the into the framework. So empowered by such kind of insight, content creators and the course developers, they can actually establish a framework for your e-learning that not only brings the best possible results, which is regarding the employee motivation or the engagement, uh, but the knowledge retention, and suitable different interests and the learning style of the people. So that's why you will find that learning analytics actually improves the work environment as well as the experience. Without them, the educators, they will not be able to measure the success, the rate of the individual courses, modules, or the employees. Neither they would, they would, it will be very difficult to provide the learning materials, teaching methods, and studying tool that make e-learning becomes very, very beneficial. So you will find that nowadays what is usually we are measuring and what is getting tracked today. So let's try and understand. So before I tell you about it, let me understand from you all, what are the various things you all are measuring in your organization. So let me understand from your side. Anyone? Any specific thing that you all are learning, measuring or tracking on a day-to-day basis, or maybe a daily run rates or a weekly run rate or a fortnight run rate or a monthly run rate, anything that you have been doing in your in your organization? Yes, anyone can unmute. So I see someone has written on the chat box. Okay, so Sonal, nice. You guys been doing into the retention, loyalty, productivity. Wonderful. Okay, so how do you check the loyalty? Now let me understand here. Sonal, if you can unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, ma'am, that has been the most challenging thing, though we have tried a lot and going online for various questionnaires. But
Huh.
this is something which we understand it's not easy
Hmm.
to, though we have involved certain psychometrics, and there was an IM which also got involved with us. So
Hmm.
the professors there devised, but analyzing the answers also was a very Herculean task. And how the participants would attend the questionnaire, they used to, uh, they used to not be very straightforward in answering the questions. They would digress from the questions. So that's why loyalty part we were unable to capture, to be very frank.
I understand. That's why I picked up this particular word, element of loyalty. Okay, so I
But
can see Praveen mentioning about performance. That's nice. Arvind says penetration, consumption, mandates. Okay. Also, in terms of KRAs and measuring in respective of the standard which has been laid down. Wonderful. So, thanks, Sonal and Praveen. Arvind, nicely, you've also talked about the consumption. Priyanka talking about cost per hire, attrition, diversity ratio. So, what's the current diversity ratio that you have in your organization, Priyanka?
Well, currently we have very less diversity ratio at the store level. So
Hmm.
we've come up with a new plan of hiring minimum, you know, three uh, three diversity candidates at the store level, so that we have the management balance, because there is a workforce of 24 people. Out
Hmm.
of that, we have decided now let's have 3 to 4 women employees also, which will be better for the next level. And we are also looking at internal promotions, wherein we can see that we can provide them that facility through training, so that they can take up this leadership roles there.
Hmm. Wow, wow, very nice. Great, thank you. Let me see. Okay, so Binita is mentioning about evaluation of training and cost of retention. Oh my God. Binita, can you tell me what kind of evaluation your company is doing on the training bit? In fact, anybody can answer on this because a lot of company they do evaluation. I have only seen we restrict ourselves to the reaction mode, that is after the training program we just do the reaction just to know how the participant felt after the training session. But what was the learning end of the day, what was the behavioral change, what was the ROI after the training program, I have not come across the HR really.
Ma'am, I am an external trainer, but they have. I'm going for Adani Enterprises Limited,
Okay.
where they have identified high potential candidates. and they have done an IDP, like individual development plan with them, and
Mm,
the impact of the training,
mm,
they are linking with the outcomes. Ki if they have identified कि, okay, communication was a major reason why this person's growth was stopped, and
mm,
after once they see the
mm.
behavior, it is a 360-degree sort of survey that they do at the
Yeah.
beginning and at the end, and that is how they are measuring the outcome, not just on reaction. They want the outcome to be there.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Vinita. You mentioned about Adani Group. Yes, they are very strong into the learning per se and the perspective into the evaluation. In fact, a lot of organizations have started doing it, but then it's a tedious task, and then we really from moving from reaction to the learning to the behavioral change to we are talking about the ROI. So yes, the amazing organization you will find, the blue chip organization, they will end up first doing the competency mapping, they will end up doing 360-degree evaluation, they then identify the IDPs, that is individual development plan, and then they develop the people. So that is becomes a very strong part of your development program. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing such a great insight about what you all have been doing it in your organization. So what you will see that here I have mentioned on the screen, the employee engagement has become the most a used measuring aspect in today's scenario, followed by performance rating, retention turnover, HIPPO, high performance individuals, percentage of employees with the development plan, readiness for the job. So are the people are ready to take up the new role or the leadership role or the new assignment after specifically the job, enlargement or enrichment, whichever way. Even internal hire is becomes another percentage they check. Diversity of the workforce, we just got mentioned, one of your fellow colleagues just right now, she mentioned that how they're struggling with it. So that's why the percentage is just 27 here. So a level of expertise, the competences we use. So you will see that learning needs is basically using data analytics in the L&D front. And with the data gathered about the learners, about the employees' job performance, and about the activity success, or the, it could be a failure also in the e-learning, in an application of skills. So L&D teams have a wealth of cues as what's really needed. So the data actually offers real insight into what skills people lack, where they need to update, where they need to excel. So this is how the analytics will get used. So the data scientist, it's the role. They can actually discover what a person knows, what doesn't he or she doesn't know, what could be the best way to engage with them. So data analytics, can sometimes even help L&D team predict who will succeed and who will not, that is with an additional support or a review. So when I talk about data analytics in a broad general term, putting data to work, that's the simple statement I would like to put it. So it covers a variety of statistical technique which is used by the researchers and the data scientists to extract the meaning out of it, and that is where we'll get to know if we narrow it to the e-learning or the performance support, that is how it gets used. Then we use data in L&D, right? So here again, if you're talking about L&D, the data is presented in a spreadsheet or in a table, and the data that is either on the LMS or LRS which gets corrected may not be terribly useful on their own, but it is a raw form, and that raw forms gets actually used into the communication basis on the aspect of data visualization. So as I mentioned about e-learning context, okay, so in an e-learning context, when we compare the data on what training an employee has completed with data on her, his or her job, which can result indicate whether the training has been effective or not. So the graphing the performance or let's say the results, when I say, of the employees with the division of a comparable teams, which can actually enable managers to see who's doing well and who needs the improvement. So based on, once I have the data, I go into the visualization mode. I share the details, which gets a absolutely insight on how the best way we can engage the learners. Now with this, we work with two kind of data into the data analysis. When I'm talking about e-learning, let's say, uh, data is very well classified into quantitative data and qualitative data. Now the question to the group: what is the difference between quantitative and qualitative data? Anyone?
Quantitative is something which you can very easily convert in figures. Qualitative is more descriptive, and it is a challenge to put it down into figures.
All right, very nicely said. So when I say, when my data is measurable, that means when there is a measuring instrument is available, that is called quantitative data. For an example, I want to know how many students score above 50. Can I measure it? Because there is a measuring unit available. There's a number. If I want to know what is the height of the people who are attending the today's session, even again that scale is visible, available to everyone, each one of us. We can measure the height, we can measure the weight because of the instrument which is available. Now I want to know that, let's say, there are 22 participants. How would you rate, how good, how much, I would say, I will put in a very smart manner, rather. Tell me, out of, rate Arvind Kumar on his looks, how good looking he is. Who will tell me? Is it easy to describe? Or if I have to ask how beautiful Bhumi is, it becomes very difficult. This, what is, a variable which is, becomes very, very difficult to quantify. This is your qualitative data. This qualitative data actually needs to be converted into quantification so that the people can rate. So this is how we work onto the qualitative and qualitative variable, right? So specifically when we talk about the behavioral front, behavioral is something, again, we can't describe it till the time we don't have the proper enablers to it, and we have to give it very strict, protocol, that what we are going to measure. Otherwise we can actually come up with the wrong analysis. So the data, when we classify into quantitative data, there is a very simple thing: I can count, things that you can put into an order, you can compare, you can do a groupism, you can categorize. Qualitative data pertains to people's perception and experience. The one way to visualize the subjective data is to chart response to a survey. That's what we do. So that's why quantitative data, in an e-learning context, because I took the e-learning context, we will talk about how many learners completed the course, number of hours of training employees in each division completed, how many new hires were still employed after 1 year, and completed the e-learning, percentage of learners who watched the video and listened to a podcast. Uh, there could be whether, the top performing sales personals are in the group that got performance support after training. you know Even we can talk about how many applicants with the master degree also have 5 or more years of project management experience. This is where the quantitative approach will come. Qualitative data examples like, um, percentage of learners who indicate that the course they have just completed was relevant to their job duties. Now, how would we know that? So job duties, it's various, it's a qualitative. Whether customer satisfaction rating are higher for retail employees who have completed training versus those who have not. Again, this becomes your aspect towards the qualitative. So whenever you are into the measuring, I would just suggest that you should be very clear. You're working with the quantitative data or you're working with the qualitative data. If you're working with the quantitative, pretty good, because you know what you want to achieve. But if it is a qualitative, you have to convert it into a quantitative measuring element so that you can actually come up with the best answering stuff. So as I mentioned, that it's really important to figure it out what is currently going on today. Um, Important here to tell each one of you is that there is something called learning record system, and then there is another thing called learning management system. Anyone in the group has worked on LRS, which I just mentioned. So I was just saying LRS is nothing but learning record system. Anyone has worked on that? Yes. All right. So I can sense that, yes, actually LR is something where you store the learning records, right? And it allows the reporting against the records and allow for exporting of a raw learning data. So LRS are a new type of a storage system that actually allow the experience API, right? Application programming integration, to offer a lot of new capabilities, but LRS don't replace LMS. So LRS are the more likely to be a component of LMS. So LMS is a much preferred system. It is a software application for the administration, documentation, tracking, reporting, automation, delivery of educational courses, training programs, learning, or a development program. So when you are in an organization, and in the last session I remember when some of you were asking that what all things we can apply, you need to work and figure it out that you should have the LMS system in place. Otherwise it's become very difficult to monitor the Excel sheet every time. So experience API, which we call, is an e-learning software specification. Actually, it allows learning content and the learning system to speak to each other in a manner that records and track all type of learning experience. So these learning experiences are recorded in a LRS, that is called Learning Record Store. This learning record store then can exist within the traditional learning management system on its own. This is the beauty of it. So what LMS can do, what that LRS can't do. So let's understand that. uh, the track compliance requirement, this LMS can do, but LRS can't do that. Competency management, talent management, managing users, roles, instructors, facilities, enrollment approval workflow, e-commerce for the course enrollment, skill gap analysis, chat rooms, forum where learners can collaborate, a Dropbox section, right? Email integration, announcement. So let me tell you, a very smart thing is, right now we are on a Zoom platform, right? And if you will see that in a corporate, we also use some set of intranet platform. That is LMS, where we can use all such thing which we are right now using into the external platform. And there are other facilities like Dropbox section, so you can leave the files for the learners so that they can read it accordingly. If you will see, one of the very good example is Coursera. You must have done a lot of courses from that particular portal. So there they have made the system so wonderfully that if you enroll for a program, They give you a wonderful learner's experience, user experience, and then there is a lot of tasks you can do, the reading engagement you can do, you can collaborate with your own people, those who have enrolled for that particular course. You can submit your assignment, you can submit your assessments which you have done. There are case studies, external links get done. So that is how it works on. And it also gets integrated with the calendar, and that's how the learners can check their grades also, how much they have scored. And sometimes you will find the social network inside the LMS, right? Yammer, how many of you used Yammer? Anyone knows about Yammer?
Yammer, Gammer.
YA.
Okay. We don't know, ma'am.
Yeah, I
Anyone?
mean, we do use Yammer in our company Conduit. So it's a social kind of platform
Yes.
where you can collaborate and learn with each other. So
Thank
that's what the purpose that we have, yeah, for
Yeah,
using Yammer.
very nice. Thank you so much, Arvind, for sharing that. In fact, Yammer, so the way we have Facebook, so Yammer is the tool which is used in the intranet. So where people, so I remember we used very strongly when I was a consultant with Honeywell, and we were using Yammer. So I was like connected within the Honeywell community from India to US to APAC countries, EMEA region. And I used to share my blog. I used to, pen down and share some clippings, any success story of my particular department. We used to just share that out. So that was a intranet basis of social network that gets done in LMS. Okay. There is also a class roster which is available to the learner. There is an integrated wiki. So there is I would say intranet Wikipedia, where you can learn about your own system, about the new changes which is coming up, or a new circular. So that used to be the another very important aspect. You can also set up your video conferences there. You can have RSS notification, you can have your own podcast, news feeds and updates. You can create your own personal profile for the learners. So I remember that, yes, when I was in Honeywell, I projected myself that yes, I'm an expert of change management and change learning and engagement, right? CEL leader. So there I was projecting it in that manner. So I used to give my personal profile to the people, and they can be, they used to reach out to me for the insight. There used to be roster used to get designed. I remember when nowadays roster has become very, very popular because of the hybrid sessions that we have started in this pandemic time. So you actually manage the roster accordingly, and the people will assign the tasks to you. You can also do the site analytics, which is the course material which has been tied to the users. So that's another stuff which you can do it. So you will find that LMS and LRS has been used. LRS used to be the previous system, and now it is mostly LMS. So you will find that what I mentioned to you about what all things that LMS can do. So LMS has a much more wider scope than LRS. So in my screen you can see the various functionality of the typical LMS which you can do. And the most commercial LMS system do a lot more than this, but my graph is big enough to share here. So my suggestion would be is like, if this comes in the LMS system, you click into the learning records, see the blue the icon which I have just mentioned on the LR, learning records, it becomes a part of LRS. So here you can get to know all the details about who all have done kind of sessions with you all. So very frankly, the flexibility of the LRS means it does a better job of record keeping than the typical LMS. So I need to have that record system. So most LMS aren't designed for tracking social learning experience, which the LRS handles quite easily. So the LMS does a lot more than LRS. For us, both of us are very important, LRS and LMS. So my suggestion is that tomorrow in your training and development, you're doing anything on the online front, if you have an LMS system and you want to do analytics, you need to ensure that LRS is there. So when you talk to your data scientists, when you talk to your your people who are taking care of the analytics front, the first question you should be asking, how are you managing the LRS, right? So this is the important aspect for you as an expert. Again, there are various factors which gets included. So do you need us to in this, do you need to schedule a instructor led classes? So, and so the LMS can actually handle, as I mentioned, roster, waiting list, reminder notice. There is something called conflict checking, prerequisite checking, and there are a lot other things which can do. You cannot put and schedule data into an LRS. So historical data can only work into the LRS. That's how you get. The second thing is, do you mandatory training or the training requirement? So if you are a highly regulated industry, like for an example, ICICI Bank was a regulated industry, food industry, again, the regulations are there, BFSI, the chances are that you have to have a recurring training requirement there. You will see the changes happening on a regular basis. Suddenly the new change has happened into the treasury, or into the during the COVID time, or during the financial sector, so another you may require that the uh, something called protection aspect, right? Every year it gets regulated by OSHA, that is OSHA's approach, so that's a compliance based focus LMS where we get set up into the requirement, and that gets actually used by the people. So this becomes the requirement of the training. Then another is, do you have a large library for the courses or not? So for this, you need to have an instructor led or an e-learning course. Again, you need to figure it out. There are some of those courses like Scrum, or AICC, and you don't want to throw all of them to the audience in one go. So the LMS can actually plan the schedule for you, and that works very well with your experience API. Okay, so this is how the designing gets done. Finally, we do an assessment, because that's another need. Now, while you are certainly store the assessment results in the LRS, where are you going to store your assessment questions? That's a big question. So you could store those questions in your probably content, but you lose the ability to do the item analysis across the entire question bank. So how you're going to associate the competences with the job profile? This is how the assessment need will come in. And you will find another aspect. So of these assessments gets used very strongly by the LMS and LRS. So the very strong message to each one of you is that if you want to check the uh, e-learning aspect or the learning aspect in your organization, you need to see the comfort aspect on the LMS front and the LRS front, because there only you will have the analytics in place. So let's understand the top 10 metrics that has been used in your organization. So let me understand which metrics for you is very comfortable to work on. Anyone? Which metrics you find it's very easy to work on? Yes. Any metrics you feel that very comfortable for you to work on that particular metrics, because you can actually do a lot of tweaking with the data, you can see the dashboard and you can read the dashboard very comfortably. Anyone?
So for me, it's mainly around, as I even pinged in chat, it's penetration and consumption. So time to time or every month or at times, twice a month, we present the data to the leadership team around, what is the consumption of our learning platform and what's the penetration. So we do several type of analysis. At times we see job level wise, at times geography wise, at times country wise. So at various levels, we do all this analysis.
Okay.
So we spend good amount of time just to see, how effectively we can enhance our systems and currently what employees are doing. And accordingly, at times we do launch many training programs because other than penetration and consumption, we also see what actually employees are consuming and at what level. And then accordingly, we decide what should be the next step. What is it that we need to launch for our employees and to what level? That's what we do using these metrics and this data.
All right. Interesting. So, if I may ask, what was your observation for the middle management? What kind of requirement these guys are looking for?
So, so mainly, middle level, when I say, so usually we have first line managers. So upper level, we saw very less consumption, and at lower level, again, we saw very less consumption. So mainly, just below the middle level and the frontline manager. So there we have the maximum level of consumption, and there we found that they are mainly interested in leadership and team building and all these trainings and quality specifically. So that's what they are browsing more, and even we know that that's what they want to learn. So accordingly, we take the action and we ensure that they have the right trainings available for them that they can consume and they can enhance more.
Fantastic. So, I heard the word quality you used. So,
Uh-huh.
make me understand here that if in the middle management people have said that we want to do quality training, have you analyzed that the after doing the quality program, what kind of initiative the people have taken and how that
Mhm.
initiative had benefited the organization after doing the quality program?
No, see, honestly speaking, Anubha, we do not go up to that level. So
No
we
problem.
just see and then we, yeah,
Absolutely. So this is, see, why I
because
asked
we
you
have a
was,
very lim yeah.
yeah, yeah. Tell me,
So
tell
we
me.
have a very limited team, and it's really tough to go to each business unit and then to check with them what initiatives they are taking. So mainly from HR side, we do take initiatives. We launch the trainings, we launch many campaigns, we launch many kind of HR programs to different countries, to different teams. And after that, we don't have enough bandwidth to look into what exactly or how the company is getting benefit from it. So
Oh,
there we lack. Yeah.
there we are. So that means there's a huge scope, right? So, so the top 10 metrics which you will find currently, I observed worldwide, people are working on to the various stuff. But then the moment you measure the effectiveness of your training programs, or you're not sure where to start, or where to focus on, so the I have given and listed down these top 10 metrics for you, and you can actually think through in your organization to work on any one of them to start with. So when I talk about measuring the effectiveness of the training, it is a very difficult task, trust me, because for the stakeholder, training department, and the end users, we really don't know what for whom we are looking at. And just right now, you rightly said, my dear, that even if we have some initiative, but we don't have that bandwidth also. So, if you are a training manager or a company stakeholder looking for ways to measure the effectiveness of your programs, then there are a great place to start with. And these are these 10 of them where you can actually start working on. I don't say apply all 10 of them. I would say take one step at a time. And you can actually create a goal for your HR department or for your own department based on the subject that you have. The first one is increased retention. So most human resource department measure the rate of retention in all or various jobs. So many times the frontline high turnover jobs are the ones that receives the most attention. If newly trained employees feel ill-equipped for the job, they are more likely to leave within their first 90 days. Now, when you measure a training success this way, higher retention points to a successful training program. So so I'll give you an example here. The attrition rate in Domino's, Pizza Hut is somewhere, I'm talking about a couple of years back, 68%. 65 to 68%, pretty high. So, and you train them, you figure it out, and then you want to know what are the challenges, what are the reasons, and so on. So, there was a different initiative. So then they worked on the retention aspect. Second example, increase sales. So, well, this is something like mostly every organization, they track efficiency based on sales. So if sale is heavily geared towards a sales or a customer service force, and effective programs with, I would say eventually increase sales number. You can also measure product knowledge training as a part of the sales number. Poorly educated salespeople usually do not make the sale. So the rupee figure, the dollar figure, and the unit sales makes a good metrics. So, but be sure to balance any metrics with other factors that can actually influence the sales number. It is very, very important. The third is increased operational efficiency. Now, in highly regulated production oriented business, managers look for more efficiency, which raises the bottom line. So, if your training program teaches skill that looks to the management efficiency metrics as a baseline before and after training intervention, that could be another thing. A beautiful way to handle it out. For this, I remember in the operational efficiency, there is a concept called 5S, which is a Japanese philosophy. So 5S is a concept where we focus on to the workplace transformation. Workplace transformation by using 5S. So the first S, is starts with sorting, then we'll do the systematic arrangement, then we do spick and span, then we do standardization, and finally self-discipline. So this 5S is a concept which gets applied, which is a concept for workplace transformation. The In the inverted comma, the concept is retrieval of any document in 30 seconds. Now let's say we 25 of us are working in one organization, right? And let's say Arvind asked Bhumi, please get me the document of 2019 January data for the 15th to 30th April. Now, how much time Bhumi is going to take? If she is taking more than 30 seconds to retrieve this particular data, that means I could not achieve 5S. Now, as I mentioned, this operational efficiency, so as I mentioned, the baseline, and I teach them, so before and after becomes the training intervention. So this is how the organization do a lot of insight into it. Another is the fourth one is the customer service result. I think this is something, again, we have been all doing it very strongly, because whether we talk about internal customer service or we are talking about external customer service. So any organization can actually link to a training customer service, which can be both, as I mentioned, internal or external. The customer service is also one of the, I would say, easier concept to start. So one well-written survey can actually identify a host of customers related issues that can be addressed by the training program. So, you remember that the training may not be the only solution for those issues. If your organization already has a customer survey in place, use those particular metrics to cross-check your program. Don't, rebuild the wheel. Once it is already there, work already, on that. When your programs impact the survey items, you can correlate an increase in the customer satisfaction back to the training. So both can be actually correlated, right? Fifth one, company defined scorecard. So trainings actually outsourced tend to use a client defined criteria. They determine the training effectiveness. So if your organization has a wide variety of possible measurement, sit down with your manager and the stakeholder to create a custom scorecard based on the expectations and the training programs that need to be placed. So this again is based on your stakeholders. Cost of the training, this is, I just love this as a subject, because as an internal training department measurement, in a high turnover organization, lowering cost per employee can be used as an effective measurement. So cost of training could also relate directly back to retention. So if you're spending less on new hiring and your retention may be higher, work with your stakeholder and HR department to determine the training cost and what you want those numbers to be. Very simply. So figure that out. So it could be, the cost, you want to reduce the cost in of the instructors or the manuals. So I'll give you a very simple example of cost of training. What I started with was with the uh, manual which we used to give it to the participant. So I remember I started when I started the journey, at that time my training docket used to be of 100 pages, and that 100 pages docket used to cost, it used to have a cost, the cost used to be somewhere around 100 rupees, very, to put it very simply. And if there are 30 participants, so 100 into 30, it actually used to make 3000 rupees, and thus so on. If I have a recurring program for that, that cost used to become very big. Then we reduced the content, the size of the content, and we made it more of an experiential learning and content from 100 pages to 50 pages. You will be so surprised that we again changed the content, and we started giving a very smart learning manual in a A3 sheet. So the A3 sheets used to get folded very smartly, and people just used to get the entire content in that A3 sheet. So the what 100 pages actually came down to A3 sheet size, both back and front. We saved the cost drastically, and you'll be so surprised that the learning intact in the same manner. It's just that we were unnecessary, never thought, we never realized in fact that we can be so that very creative in the content wise also. Then there is nowadays A3 has moved out. Now we use online mechanism. So PDF file only, you can only open it, right? Another way, blogs, so we don't have to take the printouts. So there's a different mechanism has gone into it. So guys, we all can use the cost of trainings from a different paraphrase altogether. All right, then we have return on investment. Now ROI has a long been a catch-all metrics. Okay, so in some cases it's easy to define ROI, but in some cases it's really difficult. If you deliver soft skills training, specifically when you're talking about presentation skills, communication skills, influencing skills, persuasion, negotiation, conflict management, these are all soft skills behavioral sessions. It's become so difficult to figure it out what's the ROI. Anyone has faced the challenge in this when you have delivered the soft skills but you could not uh, quantify it and gave the ROI? Anyone face that challenge? Anyone? Just unmute yourself and share. Okay, anyone is doing a soft skills program before I talk about ROI now? Anyone doing soft skills program in this particular group of?
Yes, ma'am. I am a communication trainer.
Okay, you are a communication trainer. So you are, my dear. Okay, Aviral, fantastic.
Yes.
So Aviral, you are, a communication trainer in your organization or to a third party?
No, I do have my own organization. We do take freelance trainings.
Okay, fantastic. Now, what challenges you have faced when you are doing an communication program, identifying what was the change in a person after the communication program.
Um, there are a lot of changes. Some are immediate and some are like behavioral changes, which we get, after a couple of days or couple of weeks that, sir, I did this, you told me to do this rather than this, and then, but the main problem or the main challenge that we have is like people don't take trainers seriously. And from seriously, I mean like they think that we are just, doing some kind of a summer activity course here. There are many times in an organization where we went for freelance training. People were eating samosas and they were just, it's like a movie for them. So it becomes a very big challenge to actually engage them in a training program. After the engagement is done, then we can, shoot them with our tools and techniques and what needs to be done. But at the very first thing, we need to bring them into the attack line. So that is a challenge for trainers like us,
I
because
must,
they don't
yeah,
understand soft skills at all.
yes,
Why is it necessary?
very true, very true. You nailed it very nicely, Aviral. I can actually put myself in your shoes to understand what trainers goes through, But I totally agree with some of them. They feel that it's a good break, a good samosa party and a free, stuff they will be getting. But then some participants will find they really want to change themselves and they will apply. But then we have to, do what we call is WIFM, what's in it for me. The moment we make them realize, the aspect of elephant in the room, so they understand the sanctity of the subject.
Ma'am, but the very big difference between your training and my training is like you have that got that very honorable doctor fixed to your name, right? So,
Oh my
so
God.
that so that becomes a kind of a very serious issue, because when Dr. Anubha ma'am is coming to train and just Aviral Kothari is going to train, it's a kind of a very big difference in an industry, because when people you have done your research, you have put burned the midnight oil and you have done the doctorate, so
Mhm.
that adds a cap of credibility. And we also do believe that yes, you are more you know competent than us.
No, I
So yeah.
agree. That's the perception actually. So I understand where are you coming from.
Yes.
I agree with this. So this is how it becomes very difficult. So good. This is for entire group. What we were discussing right now is a challenge into the training domain. People feel that, "Oh, wow, it's a wonderful department. We are going to provide the best of the knowledge. You come with a set of expertise, even if you have DR in front of your name or you don't have it. But even if you are an industry expert in that particular domain, people will take you accordingly based on the knowledge that you're carrying. I have seen a lot of young people are jumping into the training portfolio, and after just doing a having a 3 to 4 years of experience into the corporate world, they feel that it's a very lucrative way to work, but they really don't know that training is not that easy anymore. A lot of hard work, a lot of new insight has to be done up, because thanks to the social media, everything is available to everybody. So there's so much of knowledge which is there in the system, in the Google. So thanks to Google Baba, that it's all there. But then the structuring of the learning can be given only by an expert, because they have done a good screening of the subject from a scratch root level, and they have taken it to the next very level. And if you can work on the ROI front, trust me, it's a difficult one. But if you can show the result end of the day, whether it could be in the form of error rejection, or increasing the satisfaction, or even increasing the revenue for the organization, or reducing the cost for an organization, then only the people can relate to you in a great extent, So guys, it's again a very tough aspect, but then yes, we all do trainings, but I have, as I mentioned, very less organization focus on the ROI front, So yes, they do have a IDP element with them. They will check the performance evaluation based on the IDP, and then they see the growth of the organization. So linking all three of them is a task. It's a hurricane task, but then if you are able to achieve that, you will talk with substance, actually, right?
Now, I just want to add one more thing, which is a challenge which you told just now. I'm also 27 years old only, so that's another challenge for trainers like us, because when we go for a middle management, everyone is 40, 45.
Hmm.
So they see that young sa ladka padhane aa gaya hai. So it takes us the double the effort we need to make, so to make sure that we are not, I won't say at par with the industry experts or the, but we do have some knowledge which will be useful for you at some point in time. So yes, age is I think that after 10 years, when I'll grow my white mustache, then people might take me more seriously.
I'll tell you. So I mean, thank you. You shared this. I know
Yes.
it is a big challenge. So I have gone through the same thing. Will not discount on this. At the age of 35, I remember I was doing my leadership program. People used to feel, oh, ये लड़की हमें पढ़ाने आई है. हाँ, ये इतनी बच्ची सी जो दिख रही है. अब I don't have to become fat, It's not my problem if I can't become fat. It's not my problem I can't have a gray hair at this age also. What can I do about it? If I'm looking, lesser in my age, again, it's not my problem. I think you need to set the expectation, and the moment you will communicate, I'm telling you this, honestly, this is for everybody. If you will, so I know that your first 30 seconds as an impression makes a lot of difference, because people tend to judge your social perception per se and your outlook, personality in 30 seconds. But the god always give you the 4 minutes, in that 4 minutes where people will relate to you, and will figure it out whether I can trust this person or not, whether the person is a good confident person or not, or having a subject knowledge or not. It has a relevance. So bring that substance in your subject. That's the only message I have. And if you look great, you look great. Nothing wrong in that. Let the world know. It takes time to set across that thought to the people, but your personality will speak by itself. So let it go. Don't have to wait to have a gray hair, my dear. Don't. Just, you can look as handsome even at the age of 50 without any gray hair, but if your subject is strong, people will listen to you. That's what only I can say, right? Okay.
I'd
That's true,
like to
ma'am.
add
Thank
one
you.
line here that you can use your age at advantage, especially with analytics, because those who are in the non the social media area, those who elders who have grown up without social media still consider the youngsters as very nerdy and very tech savvy. So that can work to your advantage, not disadvantage.
Absolutely, so true. I
True.
think very rightly nailed it. So I think, so that's how it becomes very difficult for Gen X and Gen Z to collaborate, because I love Gen Z. I'll be very honest. I love Gen Y. These guys are fast, quick in their subject. I think we need to use their expertise to enhance the kind of knowledge that we have. Just collaborate with them and, bring the best to the people. So thank you for bringing that out. Good one. All right, the ninth one is the instructor performance. So we rightly talked about so great things, So it is important internal measurement. So the results can come from the, the student to the managers, leaders evaluation, and you must take into account the instructor's presentation skills, knowledge of the subject, projection of the organization values, adherence to the instructional guidelines. So the good part about the instructional performance is into the metrics which can be also used as an external measure. So when you are training under the discussion, the training manager should be the first to praise the instructor for delivery quality instruction in every course. So the instructor evaluation provides the supporting evidence, So that's how the instructor performance becomes very, very important. And I think even no individual wants the things goes in a bad shape. Everybody wants the session to become a very, very effective and impactful. So even the audience is going to support you for that. But then sometimes when you have a seniority level, it becomes very, very difficult for the people to share with them their feedback, that what is going right and what is going wrong and what is expected out of them, because they have their own set of thought with them. Anyhow, so then we have the 10th one, the end user satisfaction. So your audience can measure effectiveness quicker than anyone else, let me tell you. So both immediately following training and after a given period of time, such as 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, and so on. So the immediate results sometimes referred to as a smile sheet that we use. Okay, or else the page concept that we say P is poor, average, A, G is good, and E is excellent. So the page concept is another one. So a lot of people use these kind of sheets just to check the reaction, and after a certain period of time, when as Viral mentioned, that when they provide certain kind of tools, they provide certain kind of a concept, and when they've been asked to apply it, and they're supposed to get back to them after, let's say, 30 days after the application of it. So then you feel empowered and you feel good that yes, the people have applied. So it is all on the individual. So I can't impose learning on you. The learning has to come from your side. I can give you the channel, I can give you the direction, but end of the day, it's you only who have to walk into it, right? So these training metrics actually can take time to put into place, and you can actually show the results in a great manner. I have applied all of them, to be very, very honest, including the retention to the sales to the customer service result. I would share my experience of the customer service result. In my ICICI bank, we used to call the concept called focus, feedback on customer service. So that's how F is feedback, of O, and CUS used to be the customer. That's the full form. So the focus score used to get released. I remember that we used to have a national scorecard. We used to have a then zone scorecard, to the region scorecard, to the branch scorecard, cluster scorecard, to the branch scorecard, and then to the individual scorecard. So you can actually well imagine the kind of matrix we used to get published. And I was remembering it very well that my zone, my regional score was not meeting the national score. We were down by 23%. I still remember we took that as a challenge. We got the project in place. We initiated a Six Sigma project into it. We got entire define, measure, analysis, improvement, and control put in place, and we became pan India number one. And we crossed the national benchmark score. So the national benchmark score at that particular year was 81, and we were sitting at 82.3. So then we had certain great initiative that we did in our north zone, and it worked miraculously very well for all of us. So this is how the initiatives have to be taken. End of the day, you should be able to talk with an example, because that's how the people will relate to you. One is just giving you a theoretical knowledge. Second is when you talk with the substance that you have actually applied on this, people will know that yes, you know this subject. So that is what my objective would be to you, is to share. Please apply such thing, even if you do it for a small aspect, but I would say you must apply these scorecards. So take it this as a goal for your career development. If you want to take analytics as one of the profession in the future, so just start applying onto this front. It's very, very important. Okay, so let's try and move on to the further. I'm just giving a very interesting aspect, which I really got this for you for data analytics in L&D to improve the corporate training experience. What is happening into the current scenario? You will be so surprised. In the last 1 year, right? I'm talking to you the moment the pandemic had hit, and we were into the lockdown time frame from 22nd March 2020 till 8 months. So this is just a 8 months figure, you know. So you will see the lot of increase into the the online platform. People started using it, and the people started giving a lot of time into the to on their self development, and there was an increase in the learning perspective again on this front also. So what it used to be in 1979 to 1995, the average time corporations spent training their employees had fallen from 2.5 weeks to just 11 hours on an average, and receiving on the job training. So with nearly every organization got impacted in COVID-19, and the learning has quickly become the center of the organization response. You will be so surprised that employees are spending 130% more time on the learning. 64% of the L&D pros said that reskilling the current workforce to fill the skill gap is more of a priority than ever before. And what they talked about, the L&D globally reported was that the increase in 159 percentage in CEO championing learning and development in the organization. So you will see that what it used to be in 1995, from reducing the learning hours of 2.5 weeks to 11 hours. Imagine in pandemic it has gone into the so focused area. Even the leadership team, the C-suite, right, the CEOs were also have jumped into and given the score of 159%. Then the another great statistics that you will find is instructor led, the virtual instructor led online training, how it has increased over a period of time. So that's a just an insight I wanted to bring in. And how it used to be the short term plan of 59%, and imagine the long term plan of increase in the 74% into the online mode. So it has become very very easy for everybody. So certain tips, guys, for all of you. The data analytics gets applied to the domain of learning and development, and what you can start use your analytics with the questions and the problem definition. For an example, how many people attended the time management training? How many managers have been able to complete their performance reviews after attending the training? There could be how many people are using the care planning system properly after the training? There has to be very clear questions or the problem definition before you go ahead to the next step. So once you have the problem, you know the question very clearly. So the next step becomes to identify what data you need to answer your question. That's really important. So you need to collect the data, whether it is from LRS or from the LMS. Okay, that I have already given intimation and taught you about. Once you know the data, you need to apply the process of designing and developing the learning intervention, which can help the designing effectively. So that becomes your evaluation strategy. So if you're rolling out a program, a crucial question should be, how will we know this program was successful? That becomes, so don't stop there itself. Back it up with another set of question. What data do we need to collect to show the program was successful or not? So these are the things becomes very very important and crucial, that we feel. uh, Once you get all the data in place, you do the figure it out, put it into the Excel, do the analysis bit. The last stage becomes to communicate about your data, either in the form of dashboard with the Excel, or by using Tableau, or using the Quick, or you using the SPSS, which we did it in the session 2. So here you can pick up the good skills, or even for that matter, presenting in a PowerPoint, right? So that's the another insight. So when you will see in a training and development, a lot of things that can be used by each one of you. You can work on to the expense rate, to the compensation spend, staff ratio, training quality, penetration rate, training hours per occurrence, full-time equivalent training hours. We last time I gave you very strongly detailed about the FT. You can read into the blog also. FT concept is already given. Expenses per employee, content breakdown. If you're talking about education and development, then we're talking about the penetration rate, attainment breakdown, tuition reimbursement request rate, high potential staffing rate, and so on. Trust me, training and development itself is a very, very big domain. You, even if you start spending one topic, one subject, and start taking an intervention in your organization, doing this 18 of the topic, you will take good 10 years. Trust me. But if you have a team in place with you, you can actually apply and show the results in 5 years, and you can become a master of your training and development domain. So the innovative ways to measure training effectiveness, as I was mentioning, in the tips front, you start with a visual proof that you see what is the challenges going on. You measure with the API, that is by LMS LRS. Measure the software adoption. You just figure it out which software you want to use. You start working on measuring while doing it, either by doing survey, the questionnaire, analyze the performance, give the feedback, and then finally the Kirkpatrick 4 level of evaluation can be used. So these are the lot of innovative ways people have started working by using the technology per se in front. So you don't have to do it by yourself. The technology will take care of it. It's just you should be knowing it, how to present it, and how to do the analysis front. So this is from my side. I have already given you the link for the next class where we'll talk about the HR analytics front onto this place. Query question to the group now. Anything that you have? Any query, any question? Yes.
Ma'am, do analytics, or when we are making any analytical survey and result and projections, do we usually, like, I do not know as a principal, right, especially because we are into behavioral or we are talking of training impact and all, do we take care and note this? Because I have often seen that when we are doing this quantification of qualitative data, we understand the drawbacks, but when we hand it over to the business, they drop that. They only focus on the figures, and it sometimes creates huge problems. For example, I was in Radio Mirchi, and almost everything is done on car track records. Now car tracks, they would be doing, they always write, with this small star, that okay, this is only from, we have talked to 750 people, random sample. And then they would want me to make the changes in the program which qualitatively I felt were wrong. Okay. But the business people who are doing sales, they stick to those figures like crazy. And I do not know how you do that. So when I'm then training my jocks, I had to go by something which was quantitative and try to create a training program which was qualitative. How do you balance this when this happens?
So as I
It's
mentioned,
not in your hands. Theoretically, it seems very correct. Ki, haan, bhai, ye hai. But how do you? I do not know, because you have done such a lot. You must have managed these scenarios.
yeah. So my suggestion here would be, I know where you're coming from. The sales guys, they are a typical quantitative driven, number driven, and they know they have to show the results in the great manner. You come from the the training department side, and you will talk on the behavioral front, which is also very, very crucial and important. See, I would say that very important thing is, whatever behavioral component you want to take, have the enablers of each competencies, the behaviors that you've identified, and the stoppers. So create very categorically the difference of this. lot of organizations, I've seen the great organization. What I had done personally is, for every competency there used to be a enablers and the derailers, right, the stoppers. So that has to be shared with the stakeholders. That's first thing. For each derailers, there it should be quantified. It should be made into the, all the qualitative have to be converted into the quantification. For that, there has to be an evaluation which you need to do either into the 90-degree evaluation or a 180-degree or 360-degree. It is up to your setup. And if you can do that and show the results and align it with the quantitative, the result performance, that can only be done if you will apply the correlation and regression, which we will be doing in the next couple of sessions, how to do that. If you can show that statistically, you will sell your thought. Otherwise, you will not get the buy-in from the stakeholders. The theoretical front doesn't work. You have to quantify it end of the day, because people, or stakeholder want to see the result end of the day. Wow, it has been benefited.
And they only see the results in numbers.
They want to see in the numbers. End of the day, if that's what I said, change the behavioral competency into the quantification. So you should
have, like I showed this example, card tracks are figures that are sold. They were not generated by our organization.
Okay.
So card tracks are those na जिसपे advertisement, radio industry में advertisement उस पे आता है. So that is not generated by our organization, but sales people pick that up and then try to impose on us कि देखो हम रेडियो मिर्ची हम अभी सेकंड पे चले गए, ये सेक्शन में हमारा सेकंड है, तो इसकी वजह से हमारी एड कम आती है, तो तुम लोग कुछ करो. Now, like, and they say कि that is because of the quality. Like they will not compare कि भाई हाँ ये कम इसीलिए हुआ कि भाई हमारा 70 रुपीस पर सेकंड प्राइस था और बाजू में बिग एफएम 30 रुपए में बेच रहा है.
हाँ, वो पर्सपेक्टिव दिखाना नहीं चाहते हैं ना. तो द रोल ऑफ योर्स इज टू शो द पर्सपेक्टिव. सो यहीं पर ही आप सबको द डिफरेंट गैमेट दिखाना पड़ेगा. सो दे आर शोइंग दिस, यू हैव टू शो दिस 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 दिस. That is how that the clarity has to be given to the stakeholder, because this is what the analytics will help you, which so many times we don't get to know about it, we don't see it, we overlook such things. And you will see the small things can make a huge impact in the growth of the organization. So that's how the role of
okay, got it. So for every data thrown at me, I have to find another matrix from that what you have shared. So next time what we are discussing that. Got it. Thanks, ma'am.
That's how it goes, right? Great. Any other?
Ma'am, my question is a little bit different. Actually, when I was reading instructional design, I want to become an instructional designer. Now I'm studying analytics. I'm into sales. I'm a mechanical engineer with 18 years experience. So how do I choose my career so that I can build up more resources? Like should I go into analytics or organization development or maybe instructional? So I want to do a specialization. So how can you help me, ma'am? How I find out what I like and can I excel in my career, or I want to start my own? And what is the more promising in terms of revenue or in terms of improving the performance? Thank you.
Okay, so it's a very good question, yet very tough question for me, because you've asked me for your growth development. Okay, I will try to give it in a very simplistic manner, which everybody can apply for yourself, right? So I will tell you my career's trajectory, so that you can relate and then you can work on it.
Yes, ma'am, I want to listen.
So rather than I'm deep diving, and you need to figure that out, okay? So let me tell you this. I wanted to be a merchant banker, but thanks to recession, I couldn't go into it, and I joined marketing. So I was a brand person. Now in branding, brand management, I was doing a lot of trainings also. When I say trainings, which means I was having a lot of engagement with the people. And what I started realizing over a period of time, that the kind of feedback I was getting from my trainees, from the people, that the way you explain things, it becomes very easy for us to understand, and you are quite an motivator and inspirational. So I used to feel very surprised. Okay, what I don't know what they're saying. Nevertheless, it took me good 10 years to understand. So what I did was, I'll tell you in a very smart manner. So I joined the, I started the journey into the marketing for a couple of years, but I shifted towards the HR domain because I realized that HR is something which I can relate. So first I took the power role of HR. Now in the HR, there are so many things you can do. You can do compensation, you can do succession, you can do L&D, you can do development, you can do career planning, you can do, performance management, you can do recruitment, you can do selection. Itself, HR itself has so many verticals within it. So then I picked up L&D, right? So L&D and OD was in my subject. Now I started working into this front. Now L&D, I realized that I am very good into the training bit. I went into the training and to the development. So there were two things I started. One was the training on the soft skill side, and the second was into the quality side. So because now, how will I become an expert into the quality? So I took certain certification for myself. I did Six Sigma black belt, I did lean specialization, I did 5S implementation, and then there is a TQM umbrella which I started working on. Now which I got into this because thanks to the God I joined Moody's ICL certification. So that's how, certain times the God gift you. So then I became a quality professional, and then again training was going side by side. So I became a kind of a right now, when you ask me that, ma'am, I have a mechanical engineering and I am gone into ID and have some behavioral inceptions toward it. So even the same thing for me, I was a quality professional, but I was doing a training into the behavioral side. So what I did was, I'll give a very simple example. I innovated something very new. So we do time management, right? In time management, we do very simple urgent versus important metrics, Steve Covey model. I got prioritization concept of quality, which we work on FMEA for the time management. So I kind of made a blend of a lot of new things, and I started applying that in my training program, and my programs became very hit. So this was the first. Now second was, I got a lot of certification for myself because I was looking forward for leadership program and other organization development program. So I got other certification and on board that hat from Australian Institute of Management into the change management, leadership from the DDI USA, mind gym coaching from UK. So I handpicked those programs for myself. Now when I had those, because industry, what Aviral mentioned, when there's a lot of perception people create. So if you come with a certification baggage with yourself, people hold that weightage that you are having that. Now what happened was, so as I mentioned, from last 10 years, the analytics was also going in, because I became a part of research also, because statistics was something, quality means statistics, quality means maths. So then I started applying this in my organization. I did some analytics. I used to do a lot of critical incident analytics in ICICI Bank. I used to do service request analytics. I used to do focus analytics, implementation of new things. And that's how the analytics started coming in my job. And then I took up I started my own setup. I wanted to give it to the world, my knowledge. And then my journey of my entrepreneurship started. Slowly and gradually, I took up a lot of projects. So whatever learning I had, I started giving back and started applying. So what happened was, when I was applying, everybody come up with an organization. So I also named the organization, but there was a very deep thought of keeping the name Prism. It's just not that I kept the name like that. So I'll give you a background to it. So if you'll see, the property of a prism is nothing but a single light which get extracted into the spectrum of 7 rainbow color, the Vibgyor color. I got those 5 prominent color, that is the red, yellow, green, blue, and maroon, right? So that's the PRISM. So that's how the initiative came in. We did a lot of research to it, and then I identified, we made the philosophy. So it became P is prepare, R is respect, I is implement, S is share, and M maintain. So whatever we do in our life, first we do is preparation. Second is, we need to respect ourselves and the one who is already excelled in that task which you have initiated. Third is implement. So whatever you have prepared, you have to implement, ensuring that you respect yourself, whatever you are doing, right? You implement. When you implement, two things happens. Either you fail, you succeed. You share that. Till the time you will not share it, you will not get to know the perspective. Last is maintain. So whenever you succeed or fail, there is something that you would have done very, very good. Keep doing that. That is what is called maintain that status quo. So that's how Prism philosophy came in very strongly. All our training programs are having this 5 framework, PRISM. My OD projects, PRISM, preparation mode, respect mode, implementation mode, share mode, and maintain mode. Now the objective is, as I was mentioning, so the training is also there, my OD or consultancy is also there. Then there's other objective which I went into ahead and got wellness. Why wellness? Because there's something after the COVID, it became so very important, the yoga, the breathing exercise, the mindfulness. And that's how I added that in our training domain also. So I do hire the best of the people from the industry, but who will listen to you till the time you are not yourself. So when the leader will do it, other will also do it. So I myself became 500 hours teachers trainer practitioner. So I got that credit again to myself. So now for you, so you have mechanical engineering with you, now you're into instructional design. Based on your experience, give that only to your people. That's the only message I have. Become an expertise in couple of subjects. So for me, my expertise, stats, analytics. For me, the another is the training and coaching. So I do a lot of coaching session because I can able to relate and understand and get the best out of the people. So that's the second thing. The coaching is also gone into the mindfulness and the yoga. So this is how the things have started moving with the Prism philosophy. So that's the
Thank
journey.
you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Right. So now you can actually do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do
Yes,
own analysis and take the projection.
yeah, definitely.
So do your goal setting. I would say that.
Yes,
5
yes.
years, 10 years. Nothing
Right, ma'am.
happens in just one day, right?
Right, ma'am.
Yeah, the Rome also took good amount of ages, years. So great. Thank you so much. Any other query before we close the session? Oh, it's already 3:35, I think. Thank you so much.
You were
Yes.
told you'll be sharing your PPT with Delhi people on the classroom, but people from outside Ahmedabad, outside Delhi, don't have an access to that classroom.
Okay, my suggestion would be, I would request now. Okay, I'm sharing my mail ID here. And I would suggest just send me your test mail. I'm sharing my mobile number also. Please keep my number saved, and you can reach out to me, and I can then share it with you.
Awesome, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, and have a great and lovely Holi. Celebrate.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.